to start loving themselves and to make better decisions in their life in general, not just their cancer journey, but in general. You wanted to dance. You wanted to paint, go and do your paint classes. Now you're online, you could do it on YouTube. Do what you've always wanted to do. Not a bucket list. You do it where it really makes you feel good about yourself.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. In this week's episode of the Radical Health Rebel podcast, entitled Breast Cancer, the Emotional and Spiritual Side of Healing, I spoke with Grace De Angeli about her own breast cancer journey and how she now mentors those who have just received a diagnosis of breast cancer. This was a really great conversation, and with so many people affected by breast cancer these days, a subject that most people need to hear. The episode does end on a positive note, not just how well Grace is living today, but clear advice on those who've recently been diagnosed and are wondering what all the different options are in terms of returning to full health. Enjoy. Grace De Angeli, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Lee. It's great to be here. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Grace. So to kick things off, could you share with the audience your own personal history and what has led you to where you are in your life right now?
Sure. So, I live in Melbourne, Australia. Myself and my husband, we had a construction business for almost 10 years, making seven figures, beautiful company, so many clients and so many workers with us. And then my mum was diagnosed with cancer back in 2010. So because her secondary cancer became breast cancer, we then became the fourth member of the family. So we were put on a routine check. What happens is we didn't have the BRCA, so not everyone who's put on a high level is on a BRCA. But being the fourth member, it was great for us to keep doing routine checks. So from pretty much when my mum passed away in 2013, I started doing our routine breast checks. And every year, as they say, see you in 12 months, Grace. Off you go. And in 2018, I went, and it was really weird because I didn't hear back from the doctor. I thought, this is really strange. And then what happened was I happened to call up because I was on my way to Peru. I was going to go and catch up with my husband, who was over there doing some medicine shamanic work, and I was going to go and tour sort of Peru after that with him. So I get the call saying, oh no, Grace, we've been trying to call you. We found something and we need to give you a biopsy. And I thought, well, I'm 2 days out of flying out. And they said, it's all good. When you get back, we'll do it. So come back from our holidays, do the routine, biopsy. And, everyone's worst nightmare is when you hear those words, sorry, you have cancer. And that's when my journey started, because that moment, that fear that comes over you, that you feel like you're in a bubble, you feel like you're in an overwhelming position, because even though it's a small, when I say small world, even though she just said you have breast cancer, to me it was like she was running her mouth off at 100 miles an hour. It was just really overwhelming. And she was like, we need to do an auxiliary, we need to take out some central nodes. These are words I never heard of. We need to do a lumpectomy. We need to get you to do radiation and chemo. And we've got to do this. We've got to get it started. We've got to get it started now. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, by the way, Grace, if we can't get the nodes we need, we'll have to give you an auxiliary clearance of all your nodes. And I'm like, sure, whatever it takes, and this is how I was. And you got to understand, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm just whatever you say, doc. And thank goodness my husband was with me. And he sort of said to me in Italian, being Italian background, he sort of said, Grace, wait a minute. Just wait a minute. Let's look at this. So I remember looking at him thinking, are you serious? I just got told I have cancer. I've got to get it out of my body. And he said, can we have 2 weeks? And she said, absolutely. So, we got back in the car and my husband said, I need you to put a dream team together right now. Right now. So I rang 5 of the closest friends and family and I said, this is what's been happening. I need you at my place. And believe it or not, we had just got back from Peru and we got diagnosed probably 5 days later. And within that weekend, I was flying back out to Peru to do shamanic medicine work. Now, the reason I chose to do this is disclaimer, this is my journey, was I believe that it's not that I thought, well, this is going to be what I need to fix my problems. I just knew that I needed to, because I've done shamanic medicine work, plant medicine work, and I know it's about the internal healing as much as it's the physical healing. So that's where I thought, well, I need to be in a better mindset, a stronger mindset. Whatever I'm going through, I need to get rid of all the traumas I've had. So that took me there on that journey. And so I started doing that. So I was working with some amazing, amazing teachers who, between the 3 of them, there's probably 140 years of experience. So I went through the process of, drinking the plant medicine, and his wife would administer the plant medicine externally. And it's a big process. It's like, it's not just a matter of drinking and, hey, call it a day. It is bringing up stuff. It's bringing it up physically, emotionally, psychologically. So I was going through all of that, and I knew I had to be, as I said, my soul needed to be strong. I needed to get back home. Home is where the heart is, where the soul is. So come back from there. We go for our routine, ultrasound. Oh, no, Grace, it's grown. So we called our maestro. I remember we called him up and said, look, this thing's grown. And he said, I'll never forget, he said to my husband, no, the sickness is gone. That's probably just the external of the tumor. And, but he said, I don't think the sickness is there. But again, this is why you need the best of both worlds, And then what happened was I was like, okay, so I went back to my dream team and I said, right, we tried this. What else can we try? Now, I'm not going to go into whatever else I tried, but I always left my options open. I do not care if someone said to me, Grace, we're going to slap 2 tuna fishes over your head for 48 hours. Whatever it takes, I will do, because I'm going to leave these doors open. And I wanted to try everything I could prior to going to Western medicine. So one of my dream team members said to me, Grace, why don't you try Ayurveda, an ancient Indian practice. So I thought, well, look, I've got everything to gain and nothing to lose right now. So I went and did that. Again, that was also, it wasn't just detoxing the body, it was detoxing my mind, it was detoxing my spirit. And I purged a lot there too. And a lot of people think, oh, did you throw up or whatever, things like that. No, I cried a lot. I journaled a lot. It was a process I was going through. I had to shift my mindset. I had to shift so much. And, remember the doctor there saying to me, it's either shrunk or it's gone. And then, come back and they're like, no, Grace, it's grown, and I'm thinking, wow, this thing keeps growing. So, I got diagnosed in August of 2018, and now we're fast forwarding to pretty much the end of November. So again, this is why I say this was my journey. I kept telling the doctors, I need more time. I need more time. I need more time. And I decided to do the next best thing. I decided to get a second opinion. So I went in, my GP gave me a doctor that he was aware of, and I never heard of her. Obviously, I've never had to go through this, but she's well known in Melbourne. And I thought, well, look, I've got nothing to lose again, so I'll just go and see her. So I remember going to see her, and And she went with the reports from the previous doctor. She went from the scans of the previous doctor. And she said, look, the best thing to do is let's get it out, Grace. Let's do a lumpectomy. And I said, but I don't want you to do an axillary clearance on my lymph nodes. And that's when she said, I would never do that. That's not what we do. So again, this is why it's important to get yourself an opinion from a second doctor to make sure, because had I gone with the first doctor, my arm would have been swollen. I would have had lymphedema and other problems. So I thought, look, let's just get it out. So I thought, you know what? I've got nothing left here. I've pretty much opened up all my avenues. I've changed my mindset. I've changed my spirit. My soul was stronger. When people say be strong, Grace, no offense, but it means BS to someone who's going through cancer, because they don't understand what the word what does it mean? I remember thinking, what does the word even mean? Until that moment I realized, no, my spirit needs to be strong, because no matter what was happening, I can't control the cancer, but I can control how I felt about it. I control how I think and feel and want to know about it. And it never defined me. I never allowed cancer to take over me. No. You're in the back seat, buddy. You're coming with me. So this was why it's so important to change the mindset. So go into this operation. We decide to do this operation, and that night it was an evening sort of afternoon, late afternoon, overnight sort of operation. And I remember our maestro in Peru rang, and my husband was home and he's thinking, it's like 3:00 in the morning in Peru. What's going on? So he answered the phone, and our maestro said, no, I just want to let you know that your wife's going to be fine. She's going to be absolutely fine. And he said, well, actually, maestro or teacher, we decided to get the operation. And he goes, they're not going to find anything. And that was like at 7:20 our time in Melbourne. 7:30 p.m. that night, my surgeon called my husband and said, everything went well, the operation went well, but we couldn't find anything. So I've now been 5 years cancer-free, to the point where my doctor has actually, like, I go every 6 months to a year to still go. And actually, as we speak, I have my next one this coming Monday. So, it's an ongoing thing. This is why you need the best of both of them, because holistic, I can't go to someone who's just going to think and say, hey, I think you've got cancer. I think it's come back. I need the tests to say yes or no. And then I can take him home and see where I can go. But I remember my last one 7 months ago, she said to me, Grace, what do you think made you heal? And I said, I think it was because I changed the way this was running and the way this was working. And this is someone who's 10,001% Western medicine, who pretty much agreed that you need to change the way you think and feel. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those listening, you were pointing to your head and to your heart.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. So to the mind, I had to change the mind, and I had to change the spirit. I had to change the soul. Because it's really important. Like I say, if you allow this to overwhelm you, to run, if you allow the cancer to take hold of you, it's so overwhelming that everything becomes even worse off. And I always thought, and I still believe to this day, that God forbid something happens to me, that moment I check out, it's like, you know what? My spirit's good. I'm good. That's the main thing. It's, that's really important. Your spirit needs to be in line with who you are. And the journey took me on, finding who I was. I mean, we had this company who, unfortunately, going back to it, we lost the company. We lost everything from a really bad decision we made 24 hours before I was diagnosed. So we had, the trucks pulling up and taking our goods. You know how it is when you lose everything. And we went down to zero, but nothing was further from the truth when my husband actually said to me, I don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, we're going through it. We're just going to keep going through it, Grace, and we're going to do this standing. And that's where the journey started. It was that whole mindset of I need to keep going forward and get through this. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what I'm finding quite interesting is so going through the medical route, they were saying that there was a tumor, but your shaman in Peru was saying, no, there isn't. And then he said, well, when they operate on you, they're not going to find anything. How did that happen? What do you think? What do you think was actually going on at that point?
Look, the thing is with our maestro, not only is he just a plant medicine facilitator, he's a what they call a ayahuasquero, but he's also now I'm probably going to get this wrong. He works with herbs, so there's a name for it. So he's done this before where my husband's been in his presence where people have had, like hernias sticking out, and he'll put some type of plant, wrap it up, do what it takes to get it. And within a week that person's there, it goes down. So he's not just someone who just gets you to drink some medicine and call it a day. So it was the process. And if I can go into details without being too explicit, but not only, okay, so the medicine itself that I was taking, we don't remember the names of it because we called it the 6 doctors because it was 6 plant medicines in the one. He knew exactly what I needed for what I was going through. So while I was drinking it twice a day with a really strict dieta, which means that there was no sweets, it was just a bland, diet, his wife would administer it with a cotton bud all over my breast. And crazy enough, I wasn't allowed to wash my breast for about 2 weeks, which was really weird, but whatever it takes. So there was that moment. So throughout the 2 weeks, that's what I was doing. But also there was a moment where I was feeling very, very ill, and my maestro came with the other maestros, which is his wife and his son. And what they did was he did this motion where he was pretty much sucking the sickness out, and he was using, mapacho. He was using a plant, a master plant called Kamalonga, and he would wash me down with it. So this is something that he was using to get rid of it, because going back, which I forgot to mention, when I first met him before I went back and got the biopsy, when I went to catch up with my husband who was doing work with him, he held my hand to meet me, and he turned to my husband, and in Spanish, he started talking. I don't know Spanish. And I remember my husband said, look, he wants to do some work on you because you've been cursed. And I remember thinking to myself, what? But when you run a 7-figure company and, you get all these people who don't like the way that your lifestyle is, you're free, you're able to do things, you're going to get a lot of people. So I remember when my husband said to me, who do you think was cursing us? I went, well, do you have all day? I don't know. So that's why I believed him when I went back. As I said, I literally got back, and I would say within 8 days, I was back on a plane, back to see him. Now, from Melbourne, Australia to Peru, it's a 36-hour flight. So I was willing to do that. After 8 days of coming back, I was straight on a plane doing that. So I believed he knew and he understood what was happening. And he was, the methods that they used to sort of suck out the sickness and things like that, I believed that I was getting better. So again, it's an internal belief, isn't it? So you've got to have that belief. No, this is working. This is absolutely working for me. I know it is. Because if you doubt things or if you don't have faith, don't worry about it. These people can do whatever you want. And I think that's what it was. And also with the Ayurveda, the same thing, where that doctor said it's either shrunk or it's gone. It was physically by my pulse. That's how he knew. because he feels your pulse. And he knew by looking at my tongue, looking at my eyes and feeling my pulse that I've changed. I've changed from where I came in. So that's the belief I had. So, but when the doctors are still telling you, oh, it's grown, Grace, it's grown, it's grown. Now, when I say it's grown, we're not talking centimeters. We're talking millimeters. Now, I say to people, if I draw a circle with a pencil and you draw a circle with a thick texture, it's going to be a different size. So what were they pushing for? I don't know. When I got out of the doctor and she said there's nothing there, this is my surgeon now. She still wanted me to go and see an oncologist and a radiologist. And I did. You do the right thing, even if you're not going to do it, because I had 1,000,001 questions. Maybe not 1,000,001, but I had more than 20 questions. And I asked all the hard questions. I asked the questions like, what is this going to do to me long run? What is it? Why do I need this? What is my chances of getting a secondary cancers? What are the side effects of this? And both of them, the cons were higher than the pros. So I thought, well, I'm going to take my risk in life and not have anything. The tablets, tamoxifen. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. When I say diagnosed, we're not sure if she had the cervical cancer before the breast cancer or vice versa, but one of them brought on the secondary cancer, and that was through tamoxifen, because as soon as she got diagnosed with breast cancer, they said something's happening here, take her off the tamoxifen. So that was one thing that my sisters begged me not to do, and I thought, well, I'm not going to take anything. So when I went to the oncologist, I said the same thing. Tell me, where do I stand with this? And she said, well, you take tamoxifen. Well, what are my other choices? Well, you have a hysterectomy. Well, what's that going to cause? Well, that'll cause you to have this, and this problem. Well, really, you're not giving me any great solutions here. You keep giving me a problem after a problem after a problem. And then when she went into her little fancy spreadsheet, there was a 0.5% risk of me getting the cancer again in 5 years or 10 years, I think it was. And there was a 0.8% of me getting a secondary cancer. So again, I went, well, hang on a minute. I'm not going to take that chance. I'll go with, let's do it this way. God forbid something did show up. And I've had a biopsy done, I think it was late January last year, on the other breast. And it happened to be just nothing, just a shadow, whatever that is. But I still do my test. I still do the exams. And God forbid something shows up. That's when I'm going to go back to the drawing board before I make any final decisions. And I speak about that with women because, some women go, oh my God, doc, just give me a double, mastectomy. Let's just get rid of him. And then I hear, you know what, Grace, I wish I'd met you prior to that because I didn't need to do that. Things like that. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I still have the question around why did the medical doctors keep saying that not only was there a tumor, but it was getting bigger when you went into surgery, there was nothing there. I can't get my head around why. I mean, were they wrong or did it just shrink very quickly, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think it shrank really quickly because when I went in to get the operation, the lumpectomy, what they do is they put a like a metal rod. I shouldn't say metal rod in a bad way, but it's a needle with like a thread. It's a wire. And what they do is that lights up exactly where the doctor has to go in and operate on the lumpectomy. When we're doing that, the lady with the ultrasound was referring back to the very first MRI scan. And she was trying to navigate that my husband, again, in Italian, who was in the room, said, she can't even locate it. To me, it shrunk. Why do I say it shrunk? Because there was nothing there. And my doctor said to my husband at the time, we did a 10-centimeter axillary clearance and we couldn't find anything. My tumor wasn't that big, but 10 centimeters is a lot bigger than what she needed to do. But she did that. So there was nothing there. So my question is, we have Peter MacCallum Hospital, biggest cancer hospital here in Melbourne. When I walked in there with to see my oncologist, I thought, am I in Dubai in a 7-star hotel? Because this is where the money's going. And that already put alarm bells. I was like, if you really want cancer, and we know they don't want cancer patients to be, again, this is my hallucination. They don't want cancer patients to get well because it makes no money. A cancer patient could almost, in Australia, could probably spend up to $1.5 million in 5 years, depending on the cancer. So that's a hefty donation. I think it's, so were they after that, or were they just following old-fashioned protocols? It's there, let's operate, so then she can't sue us if anything happens, things like that. I don't know. To answer your question, I think it's shrunk because, like I said, when I went in that day to do the lumpectomy, my husband kept saying, Grace, she can't find it. She was sticking this wire in. I thought it was going to come out of my throat at one stage because she couldn't find it. So she just located it somewhere. Now, when I say somewhere, what they do is when they do a biopsy, they put a marker. So you have a marker, you have like a little marker. So she knew where it was, but she couldn't find that. She probably found the marker, but she couldn't find anything else. So that's where I think to myself, well, it shrunk. It shrunk because so like someone who I interviewed once said to me, Grace, your body isn't trying to kill you. And I thought that's exactly right. Your body knows what it needs to do to heal. When you get an operation and you're cut open and they stitch you up, what happens? It's not no machine on the outside that ends up putting all your skin cells and all your other cells together that you end up with a scar. It's your body that does it. Mm-hmm. It's your body that does it. It knows how to repair itself. It's just that if you put in external stuff, the body's like, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to get rid of it because it's overwhelming. What do I do now? And, like I say to the women I work with now, we're all born with cancer. It's just when one cancer cell decides, hey, let's get a group here. Let's get a cult going and let's push it out. And that's when it causes what they know is you have cancer. But I believe it's a way of the body, and I'm probably going ahead of myself, but it's a way of the body saying there's something going on, look at it. Mm-hmm. But I believe the body also knows how to heal itself. And I think the moment I started getting rid of my traumas, I think that's when it started to heal. I started to heal. Like I said to you, Lee, I didn't know if I was going to survive cancer or not. I don't know. But I tell you one thing, my soul was going to live for the rest of eternity. Mm. And that was what I wanted at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to come on to talk a bit more about that in a moment. Esther was in her 40s when I met her through a friend. She had really bad breakouts and was very embarrassed about her skin. Her acne was so bad that even applying makeup couldn't conceal it, and she tried many different facials and cleaning routines without success. Esther purchased the first edition of my book, Axe Adult Acne, after chatting with me, and in a very short period of time, she improved her diet, especially reducing sugar and flour intake, and she noticed a great improvement very quickly, which greatly improved her confidence levels. She now uses much less makeup than before because she doesn't need to conceal her acne. And suffice to say, she was very pleased with the progress in a short period of time and looked forward to continued improvements and a further reduction in the frequency and severity of breakouts as she made her way through the book. If you'd like to achieve the same kind of result as Esther, you can now follow a comprehensive step-by-step guide in my brand new book, Eliminating Adult Acne for Good, available now from all major online bookstores and via my website at www.bodycheck.co.uk/books. But what I want to just go back to, because this is just something in my head that just needs to understand this.
Absolutely.
So when the medical doctors were saying the tumour's there, the tumour's growing, were they using ultrasound to assess the size of the tumour?
Correct. And that's the thing that I want to sort of specify, and thank you for bringing that up, is because I had every year when I was doing my routine checks, it was an MRI, it was an ultrasound, and it was a mammogram. The MRI picked it up. So I was like, that's interesting. Like I was saying before, if you have Joanna measuring you on an ultrasound and she measures you, and then Josephine comes along and measures it a millimeter bigger, well, it's grown, Grace. And then you get, Darren who comes in and he measures it and it's grown again, Grace. So we're talking millimeters that they kept saying that it's growing. Now, millimeters is nothing. If she was saying it's growing from 3 centimeters to 5 centimeters to 7 centimeters, it's a totally different ballgame. But we're talking like, well, Grace, it's growing at 4 millimeters to 5 millimeters to 6 millimeters. It's still minute. So that's the ultrasound. The other thing was, which again, this is why I tell people to have a second opinion, is because it wasn't until 2020, one of my routine, because now I got to go every couple of months, half a year to a year, that my surgeon said to me, Grace, I've got to ask you a question. Why didn't you do something about this in 2016? And I looked at her and I went, what are you talking about? She said, the doctor went back and he could see it on your MRI in 2016. Now, how fortunate and blessed am I that this thing did not grow massively because it was misdiagnosed back then. So when I was getting the call, all good to go, Grace, see you in 12 months, it was there. So which one's better? I don't know. I believe MRIs are, but like this next one that I've got to go in a couple of days, on Monday, I'm only having an ultrasound and a mammogram done. She doesn't think I need a MRI. But this doctor or this surgeon, she's great like that, though. If she sees something, she'll send me back for an MRI because it gives you a thorough explanation. So going back to your question, I don't know why, but I believe it was because all it takes is Junior to mismeasure something and the doctor says, oh, yeah, I could see where you're going. And yeah, it's grown. So, but then when I went in, she couldn't find it. The day I was getting operated, the lady could not find it. So I don't know. Yeah.
Have you ever looked into thermograms?
I've heard of it, but I haven't. I'm going to write that down though.
Yeah,
I have heard of that. It's a proper way. Like, I'll get you to explain it for me.
Yeah. So basically it's just like it picks up the different areas of heat in the tissue. So obviously tumours tend to be hotter, right? So they pick up tumours a lot better than mammograms. And the other advantages is it's not so high in radiation as a mammogram, which obviously isn't good for a tumour as well. And also it doesn't squash the tissue, because obviously a mammogram, you squash the tissue and that can almost spread a tumour, right? And my understanding is with thermograms, it can actually pick up tumours much earlier than a mammogram, which again is obviously another great advantage. But it's quite interesting that, you've got ultrasound, you've got mammograms, you've got MRIs, they're all quite high in electromagnetic radiation, which, I would suggest probably isn't the best thing to do if you've got a tumor.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that would be something I would definitely suggest perhaps to look into, would be thermograms. And I mean, I don't know how available they are in Australia or in Melbourne. But yeah, it's certainly something I would certainly look into.
Absolutely. I'll have to look into it because I have heard of it, but I'm not sure if it is available here. So, but definitely that's something that I would look at going forward because, the good thing about it is, when I get the all clear, I get, I'll see you in 12 months. So at least I know that every 12 months isn't, great, but at least I'm not having it every 3 months or every 2 months. And I wouldn't do it anyway, because it's like, I don't want to put my body through that. So, but yeah, absolutely. I have to look into it to see if it's available because you want to know, it doesn't matter how you find out, you're going to know. So the thing is, I also did have a PET scan, a PET scan. So I don't know what it stands for, but it's a PET scan, we call it here. And that actually picked up something else that I had, which I have to deal with. But it's quite interesting because it picks something else up. And I thought, please don't pick up anything else. It's like opening Pandora's box. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, one of the things that I do in my work, I work with orthopedics, right? I work with people in chronic pain. And it's interesting when you start using imaging, it's generally MRIs are the things that tend to be used the most for the kind of conditions that I work with. And it's really interesting because in one way they can be quite helpful, in other ways they can be the complete opposite. And what I mean by that, my own example, I had a really serious back injury 11 years ago. And when I had the injury, I pretty much knew from the symptoms what the injury was, even down to what disc and what level of the spine was injured. But I thought I wanted to get an MRI just to confirm what I thought I already knew. So I got an MRI and it confirmed what I already knew, right? So that was a good thing. But then if you said, right, every person between the age of 44 and 46, at some point in that age, it's really good to come in and get an MRI of your spine. If they did that on the whole population, they would probably diagnose disc injury in 70 to 90% of the population and then say, oh, you need surgery or whatever the intervention might be, right? So I think we have to look at imaging and things like that with not with a pinch of salt, but with an open mind and to look a bit more around it. Because, if you're dealing with someone 40 years or older, there's going to be some degeneration of the spine. And a lot of them will be absolutely fine, but then a small proportion of them will be in pain. And what you see on their imaging will match their symptoms. So
that's right.
If, when I went through my functional medicine training, we were taught, do not treat the test results, you treat the person, right? So I just think we have to be really careful when we're doing, this diagnostic testing. Listen, I use diagnostic testing, but you have to just be very careful what you do with the results.
Absolutely. And it's a great point because also during the whole, COVID and the after with the double, I call it that. So there was a lot of women who were misdiagnosed because it expands the lymph nodes. And what was happening is I was saying, oh, this is an unusual swollen lymph node. Let's do a biopsy. So you've got all these women who didn't need to do it. Now you've put them into a worse mindset because now they're going for their routine like they normally do, and everything's peachy. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, by the way, you got a swollen lymph node. We're going to check that out. We're going to do a biopsy. So it's getting misdiagnosed. So it's like you're just, I don't know, biopsy friendly, and you just want to start stabbing everyone and getting a biopsy. It's like you can't keep doing that. Then they changed it where they would say, oh, have you been? Because if you have, don't come for 4 weeks. Like wait 4 weeks and then come in. Things like that, to the point where when mine was a little bit swollen because I had I had a normal flu. Let's call it that. And it was a bit swollen. But then when I went back I don't think it was about 3 months later, it had gone down. But I told them, like you said, I said to them, I am feeling sick. I just came out of the flu. So I wasn't making up excuses thinking, oh God, it's a swollen lymph node. Just say that. I was gentle. Oh yeah, you know what? Because your lymph, you got a swollen lymph node. Oh yeah. Well, I was actually sick with the flu, prior to coming here. But yeah, 3 months later, it's all good. But that's what I'm saying. I believe what you're saying because, I was feeling the best I ever felt in my life when I got diagnosed. I was feeling amazing because I think I already started the process of changing the mind shift. I was already on it because my husband was already on a spiritual journey. So I was already, sort of flipping that page already. So I was actually feeling great. And they said to me, oh, Grace, do you feel anything? No. Oh, have you? But what am I supposed to feel? Don't put words in my mind that I'm supposed to feel. I don't feel it, so I'm okay. But exactly what you're saying. My knees have played up. I tore my ACL many, many moons ago. And my left knee is stronger than my right knee. Now, my knees are playing up. Yeah, I know. But if I go and get an MRI, they're going to say, Grace, it's because it's the inside of it, it's all worn out. I know what it is. So it's really important, like you said, to make sure that that you treat the patient, not the report. That is so important because I always say to people, you better than anyone. You better than any doctor, any partner, any mother, any daughter, any brother, sister, whatever, friend, you better. So how are you feeling, and that's the main thing, I guess, and go from there. Absolutely. So I agree.
Yeah. I mean, in my work, the important thing for me is to find and address the root cause of the problem. As we know, modern medicine doesn't take that approach. It's, here's a symptom, here's a treatment. Right. There's no concern about what the cause is. Okay, let's address the cause because, and we know why it's economics, right? There's no money in curing illness. If you can maintain an illness, that's how they make money, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that cure isn't a good thing for the medical community because if we start curing all these diseases, they won't have an industry anymore. So with your condition, was there a point where you said, right, I need to find out what the root cause of that problem is? Did you go through that process?
Absolutely. That's what I say to people. Was I surprised that I got cancer? Oh, of course I was. Was I surprised I got cancer? No. Because I knew within myself already, I wasn't living my authentic self. I was living a people pleaser role. I was living a very masculine role because my husband, when he was over in Peru doing his shamanic work with the plant medicine, I was running a company, a construction company with 22 staff, all men, going on job sites, all men. So I was against my own self. Like the feminine side of me was suppressed and the masculine had to keep coming out. So, and then I went into, I was very, very angry, very resentful and all of this stuff. So that's exactly what I had to do. I knew there was a lot of trauma. I mean, I speak openly now about my traumas because they're what I call scars, not open wounds. I've been from from the age I can remember to the age of 29, my father abused me, like physically. He'd beat me, he'd punch me, he'd do a lot of things. He'd even put a loaded gun to my head. So I was carrying a lot of that. Then I was in a household where my parents were very strict. My father was very strict. So I couldn't go out. I couldn't do anything, to the point where I had to leave my own parents' house. It was the only way for me to be able to live a life. And that was at the age of 30. So there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff I was holding. But also, I came from a family where even though my parents were attached at the hip, they were very jealous of one another. So when I first met my husband, I knew my husband. I've known him now 23 years. I was very jealous. Like, I don't go and speak to that girl, because if you speak to that girl, you're going to marry her, because I didn't understand it. Yeah, I was so naive, but I was sitting in jealousy and resentment and all of these pain, so much pain, but I wasn't being who I wanted to be. So that was the moment where I went, oh no, nah, I'm not doing that anymore. I need to start living me. And that's when I said, the first thing I said, and my husband doesn't like when I say it, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I didn't need my husband. I didn't need him, but I need him to want me. So there was a difference. Like yes, honey, you do something, you stand forward and I'll stand in the back. And he was always saying to me, I don't need to stand in front of you. I need you to stand beside me. But I couldn't understand what that meant. But I needed to find myself. Who's Grace? And I didn't love myself until I was 47. That was the other thing. There was no self-love. Absolutely none. I gave all my love to everyone else. But really, was it love or was it a transaction? If I make you feel good, it'll make me feel good in return. Like, I'll do that for a transaction. Now I don't do it as a transaction. I do it because I naturally want to do it. If I like you, I naturally like you. If I don't like you, it's okay. I don't have hard feelings. But before, I didn't understand that. So it was a matter of finding who is Grace. Who is Grace? Not the 47-year-old who's been diagnosed with cancer, not the wife of someone, not the business owner. Who's Grace? So that is a journey. And I was thinking about it the other day when I was going on my walk. Is something I've been doing for the last 6 years. It's not something that just changes overnight. No, you have to keep twigging at it, because if not, you go back to your old habits. And the moment now I know I'm going back to my old habits, it's quite interesting. I know, because I don't feel good. Nah, I'm not feeling good, Grace. Something's not right. And now I'm more verbal. I'm more verbal again. It doesn't mean I swear at people or tell them to, go away in a non-nice way and things like that. No, I'm more in tune with who I am. And the thing is, it's like, this doesn't sit right with me, and it's okay. It's okay. I can say no. The more I was saying no, the more I'm saying yes to myself. And that was where you have to go and dig deep. Like you said, where did it stem from? Of course there were traumas. When people tell me that they have cancer, when I work with women who tell me they have cancer, yeah, great. You're telling me a story. Okay. Yeah. There it is. Because what happens is they then go to I was abused. I've come out of a horrible relationship. My parents disowned me, whatever it is. There was a trauma of some sort, whether it happened at the age of 5, at the age of 15, at the age of 55, no matter what it was a trauma. And that's when your body's going, I'm trying to tell you to heal. Okay, you're not listening. So I'm going to give you something where you have to sit down and you have to listen now, and you got to try and get rid of all this stuff. One of the other processes that I went through was Vipassana. I'm not sure if you've heard of Vipassana.
Yeah, I do it every day.
Oh, wow. There you go. See? So I did the silent meditation for, I think it's 12 days. Now, I came home with a bag full of my own BS. And I then went, I can't breathe. And I started unloading that in front of my husband. Now, lucky for me, I have a husband who did not take anything I said on board personal. He just allowed me to listen and to just really just throw it out there. It was about our relationship. A lot was about our relationship, but I was able to let go of things that I believed. Did he keep saying to me, no, you're wrong? He didn't gaslight me. He just kept saying, look, I'm really sorry. That's how you saw it. But really, from my point of view, that's how I see it. So that's where I see things now. I use what my husband always talks about is looking at things like a sphere, not even two-sided. Look at it from all angles. So I had to learn to look at myself and others from all angles. That's the only way you can heal, is not suppressing. Don't suppress. It's a problem, talk about it. It's a feeling, feel it. If it's whatever it is, just let it out. It's better out than in, we say.
Absolutely. Sharon, a 52-year-old business consultant, came to see me because she was waking up every night and not able to get back to sleep, leaving her exhausted during the day, which was very concerning for Sharon. She occasionally had a dull ache in her stomach, and she also suffered from acne. But Sharon was most desperate to get to the bottom of her sleep issue. Following a series of tests, it was found that Sharon had a gut infection, which was the likely cause of her waking at night and causing the stomach ache, and she also had a leaky gut and food sensitivities, which may have played a role in her acne. Sharon went on a low FODMAP diet and supplementation plan to rebalance her gut microbiome and help repair her gut lining and to support her immune system. Within days, Sharon felt much better. Within weeks, Sharon was sleeping through the night, her stomach ache vanished, her skin was clear, her energy levels increased, and her weight, particularly around her middle, in her own words, simply dropped off. If you're suffering with sleep, gut, or skin issues and want to get to the root cause, and you'd like to achieve a great result just like Sharon, then go to www.bodycheck.co.uk, that's BODYCHEK.co.uk, to request your consultation. Now, back to the podcast. So based on what you just said, would you suggest that your cancer was a blessing?
Absolutely. 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 Because I wasn't living my true self. I probably would have been dead by now from other reasons. Who knows? You know what I mean? It was real. I would have been living. I would have been alive, but dead inside. Absolutely. There is, when I look back at photos of me, I've got the long hair. Yeah, I've still got the nails and whatever, but I was like all about the exterior because I was afraid of showing who I truly was. But now, my goodness, you see me on a good day? Great. You're lucky. You see me on a bad day? Great. You're lucky. Because now I don't care anymore. I don't care what other people think. I don't care of other people's opinion. Unless you're going to tell me something that's going to make me grow, I don't care. When I say I don't care, I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting anyone. So that's why it was a blessing for me, because I wasn't living who Grace really is. This Grace would have been, Grace, I need you to do this. Okay, I'll do that. I really wanted to do this, but I'll do that. No, now I say no. No, it doesn't suit me. To the point where with my husband, I was afraid to make fun of myself. What would he think if I made fun of myself? My husband cries laughing when I do stupid things. And you know what I mean? But I was afraid to show that. I was afraid, what's he going to think? I was afraid to say no. Grace, we're going to have this tonight. Yes, we'll have this. And I'll be sitting there miserable thinking, ugh. Now I say, no, I'm not having that. I'm going to have this. And he's so okay with it, because the blessing is when you finally figure out who you are, The right people will recognize you, see the change, and come on that journey with you. They will not try and pull you back into your old, who you used to be. Did I get rid of a lot of people? Yes. Did a lot of people drop off the face of the earth when I got diagnosed? Absolutely. But I look at that as a blessing as well, because people come in for a reason and a season. And I think to myself, you needed to be there with the old Grace, but you wouldn't have suited the new Grace. And that's okay. I send you love, but I'm going to go left and you're going to go right. And that's okay. So I think that's really, really important. Absolutely important to do so. To get rid of that trauma and really find who you are. Absolutely. I live by it now.
Yeah. So just to kind of summarize, what I've got from you is, first of all, to put it one way, your cancer was a culmination of all the trauma that you experienced. And obviously carrying that for the rest of your life wasn't going to be the optimum thing to do. So that's one thing. And obviously the work you did in Peru, etc., that really helped you with that. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that you learned to do was to love yourself. That was another thing. I think another thing that you also learned from the experience was to set boundaries and to learn to say no to other people. You know, there is a saying that your yes has no value until you learn how to say no.
Wow, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've set some values to live your life by. And I think the other thing that I got from what you were saying there was that you were giving people conditional love. Right?
That's right.
If I do this for you, I want this back. Right?
Yeah.
But what you've learned to do, and now obviously we can't always do this 100% of the time because we live in a material world, but I think what you've learned to do is to tap into unconditional love.
Yes, that's so true. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
so
quite
important.
That's quite a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I wanted to touch on, like, you know, loving yourself. One thing I get the women to do, because I learned to do, it's very hard to do, is I can stand in the mirror now and say, Grace, I love you so much and I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere. You say that to yourself. It takes your breath away when you first say it, because you're actually looking at yourself like a friend would and say, I'll always be here for you. But imagine saying that to yourself. I love you so much. I'm not going anywhere. I've got your back and I will never let you down. I will always be here. That's my soul speaking to me. Grace, I will always be here. No matter what happens, I will always be here. And about the unconditional love, doing plant medicine also allowed me to see and just keep seeing more than just the external now. I see the person now. I see the soul now. And it's not because I'm psychic. It's because now the soul's opened up. It's not the mind that's judging you anymore. It's the soul opening up. So when I see people, whether I get along with them or whether I don't, and that's okay, I see that. I see the person, the essence, and I think, that's okay. You're just on a different frequency and you're good on your frequency, and that's okay. But that takes a lot of work, a lot of work. And like I said, 6 years later, have I learned? Absolutely not. I'm still learning. That's part of the beauty of it. Absolutely.
So with that in mind, so, you know, we've spoken a lot about, you know, what's the cause of cancer. What do you think about, you know, if we look at the medical establishment, their belief is that cancer is genetic, pretty much, right? What's your view on that?
I think cancer is a dis-ease. Something is not going right in your life. Something is out of balance. Your soul your psyche, your emotions, they're out of balance. So it's a matter of bringing it back in. And what it is, it's your body under so much strain and stress because you're out of line. You know, it's like a car. If the four wheels aren't going the same way, you can't drive the car. So you've got to get it aligned. You've got to get it aligned. And that's what I believe it is. When you have everything aligned, there's no room for diseases. So that's what my belief is. A disease comes from pain, anger, emotional, psychological. Let's call it that. You're out of balance. As an example, like off the subject of cancer, but Crohn's is your second brain. That's your brain. Your stomach is your second brain. It's your emotional brain. And then when you speak to people with Crohn's, look at all the traumas they're holding. And it's because they're suppressing all the anger, resentment, jealousy, all the bad stuff. They're swallowing it. And guess what? They got sicknesses. They got, like I remember having IBS, and I used to say, that's not IBS. It's called inner BS. That's what it was carrying. It was my inner BS that I had to let go of. And the moment I worked on my inner BS, I no longer had IBS. So disease, absolutely. It's the body the body gives you the feather and then it gives you the bat. And then if you get the truck, you ain't here. You're not here too long or you're not here. So that's what it is. It's because something's not right. And it's the body is telling you. When we have headaches, when we have back pains, it's not me saying it. It's all these, if you could do a million researchers. One of the things was breast cancer in the right breast, nurturing. It's the nurturing side. Oh, well, guess what? I always wanted to be a mother. I never got the opportunity to be a mother. My nurturing side was out of balance. My mother, who watched my father abuse me, there was never a mother figure. So that's, you know what I mean? It's a lot of things combined into one. So it's not me saying it. It's the experts that can go through all different parts of your body from your knee to your elbow and tell you exactly what disease you are holding. So absolutely, I believe it's that. Conventional can go, it's because, like you said before, it's a money-making machine. They do not want you to die because they make no money, and they do not want you to get better because they don't make you any money. Look, I might not be giving my doctor millions of dollars because I didn't do the treatment, but every time I go and see her, it's $400. So $400 from me every 6 months, well, I'm giving her a good income for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think everyone is quite aware of is that when someone receives that diagnosis, people are absolutely petrified, aren't they?
They are.
Which I think exacerbates greatly the dis-ease, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would your advice be to someone that's perhaps just had that diagnosis or perhaps might be getting that diagnosis in the near future?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing, which a very close friend of mine told me, which I now took it on board, is never, ever make a decision based on fear. So step away. It's okay. It's okay. Unless it's a life-threatening problem. Again, I'm not a doctor, but if it's a life-threatening problem, it's a different story. But if you say to your surgeon, may I have a week's time, nothing's going to change in that week. If you say, may I have 3 weeks, nothing's going to change in that 3 weeks. Take yourself out of that room and look at the bigger picture. Now, the women that I help, if I can mention that, that's what I do for them. We put a puzzle together. I put the whole puzzle in front of them, and then I say, now you can see the picture. Now you can decide what you want to do going next. Without those pieces of the puzzles, it's overwhelming. If I put you in front of a TV very, very close, you can't see it. But if I put you far, you'll see the picture. So that's what I would say. Before you do anything, and absolutely anything, regardless, if you want to do your tests, go ahead, do the test. But don't get operated. Don't take the medications. Don't do anything until you have exactly everything there and more things on your puzzle, and then you can make the decision. But don't make the decision based on fear. That's my number one motto. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably add to that and say make your decision based on love.
That's awesome. Absolutely. It just gave me goosebumps. That's awesome. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Yes. I loved it. I loved my cancer. People go, what do you mean you loved it? I gave it so much love it left. You know, I gave it love. I didn't turn my face from it. Don't go into denial, because the moment you go into denial, you give the cancer that power. That cancer is now in the driver's seat and you're in the back seat. My cancer, I would use it as I would say to people, I use it like an old handbag. You're coming with me. I've got time for you. Or I say to people, if you break your leg, what do? You don't disconnect the leg and leave it at home while you go shopping or to a friend's house. You just adjust, don't you? But you still go to your friend's house. You still go to that concert. You still go wherever you want to go. You didn't leave it at home. Oh my God, I've got a broken leg. I can't do anything. Don't call me. I can't watch TV. I can't look at it. No. You still function. Same thing. Don't ever let the cancer define who you are. Never.
Yeah.
Take a back seat. Yeah.
Absolutely. And why is it important for you to help other people going through breast cancer?
The reason it's really important, look, another friend of mine actually said, Grace, you went through this so you can help others. And I never really understood what that meant. But what it is because it's important for me to help women so they make better decisions on their journey. And I don't know when their journey ends. None of us know when the journey ends. That's the other thing that I hate when doctors give them a contract of time. You're not God. You're not Great Spirit, whoever you believe in. So it's important for me because no matter where the journey brings them, I want their spirit to be so strong that they never allowed the cancer to overwhelm them or take over. Yes, the body, God forbid, if it's in a stage where it's it's resisting everything, that's a different story. But if you're at that stage, but your spirit is strong, you're okay. You're okay. So it's important for me for them to clear out their traumas, to start loving themselves and to make better decisions in their life in general, not just their cancer journey, but in general. You wanted to dance. You wanted to paint, go and do your paint classes. Now you're online, you could do it on YouTube. Do what you've always wanted to do. Not a bucket list. You do it where it really makes you feel good about yourself. So that's why it's important for me. It's really important for me to get women when they're just diagnosed. That's who I work with, women just diagnosed. Because when you can get them, you can bring them on a different path, as opposed to I get women now who are, 3 years in and they say, Grace, I got one breast missing and I didn't need to do that. Grace, this chemo's killing me. Grace, this is the worst part. Grace, the cancer's come back. And I say, what did you change in your life? Nothing. And that's when I think if you don't change the mind and the spirit, it's going to come back. Because all you've done is you put a Band-Aid over an open wound. Now it's infected. So that's what I say to people. But yes, does it come back? I don't know. I'm not God. I can't say if it's cancer is going to come back or not. But when I hear of the ones that have come back, they've changed nothing of their lives. Nothing. And that's why I also wrote the breast cancer journey journal, because in it, it explains what breast cancer is. It gives you the questions to ask your doctor, but it then tells you how to start living. Forgiveness, things to do, write down moments of gratitude, change that whole belief that you had before, like, oh, I'm just going to lay in bed and let this override me. No, change it. Do everything. Write 5-month goals, 2-year goals, 10-year goals. I say to people, you keep living, because none of us know, Lee. None of us know. Someone could survive cancer for 25 years, goes on a boat trip and drowns. You don't know. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is none of us know when our thing is. What are you going to do? Get to 25 years later and look back and say, I didn't live. Why didn't I live? So at least you can get to 25 years and go, oh, damn, I drowned. But hey, while I'm checking out, I did all these amazing things in my life. Mm-hmm. I still lived my life to the fullest, regardless what that might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, just to summarize what you said in my own words, it's almost a case of, your first diagnosis is your wake-up call.
Yes.
And, it's the wake-up call to learn whatever it is you need to learn. And if you choose not to learn, it's going to come back and say, hey, you're still not listening. So I think it's important to look at any illness, any symptom as a blessing, because it's trying to make you aware of something that you need to be aware of.
Absolutely. That's so true. Absolutely. 1,000%. Yeah.
Awesome. So Grace, what's next for you?
So what's next for me? So I, if I may, I just did my Breast Cancer Heroes Journey journal. And so besides being a breast cancer mentor for women, I also have the Breast Cancer Heroes Journey journal that I sell. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've got a little, again, see, I talk about creative stuff. My creative side also loves doing, selling things online. So I do that because I love doing it, but I'm always there to be a mentor for women. So at the moment, I'm mentoring women who have just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And also I've got 2 journals out. One is really the Breast Cancer Heroes Journey journal, and the other one's a Breast Cancer Heroes workbook. So if they want to continue to journal, because I think that's also a great way how to detox is by journaling. So I've got those out. So my path at the moment is that, and continue to do it. Absolutely. Love doing it. I love helping women. Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. And where can people find you online?
Sure. It's just gracedeangeli.com.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I think it's just gracedeangeli.com. You don't need the www.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Grace, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved this conversation with you. And I think it's a conversation that's, really important in today's world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee, for having me. Thank you to your listeners as well. And I hope that if there's even one little thing that I've said today that, just plants that seed, then I'm blessed to have been a part of that. Absolutely.
Awesome. So that's all from Grace and me for this week. But don't forget, you can join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.